welcome to the Faction Turn. I'm maybe peaking on my sound meter. I apologize, my sound was all messed up when I joined today, so we'll see if things work out, and if the sound is a little wonky, people should let me know, because OBS decided it needed to redo everything, so yeah, it's a little wonky today, but hopefully it should be sounding alright, and I should be audible over the background music, so cool. With that, yeah, welcome to Unrestricted Warfare's Beacon Space. Oh, it is not Beacon Space tonight, that scene is wrong. Let's fix that. That's what I get for having to spend more time fixing audio issues rather than being able to completely make sure the stream is ready. There we go, now it's Faction Turn 33, as it should be here on Unrestricted Warfare's Beacon Space. I'm your game facilitator, Xavier. You may know me on the Discord by several other names, but that's the most common one you'll see me as. Hopefully we'll get to have an entertaining and exciting faction turn today, as we get to see what our factions have been up to. Right now, you are looking at our nice map visualization tool centered on the planet of Valkai, which has been of some interest in recent faction turns, and of course, a primary focus of the most recent Beacon Space Tonight episode by myself and Lupus Kalbrick. That said, we won't be starting our attention quite with Valkai, as we have our faction orders to process across the whole of the sector of Beacon Space. Without further ado, let's head back on over to the spreadsheet where I have gone ahead and added in the turn orders for this turn. I know there are trades missing for the past 2 turns. I will get to them to add to the spreadsheet at some point, but in my time to fix audio issues, I did not get a chance to actually make that correction here yet. So hopefully that's alright and we can figure things out together. I still look like I'm occasionally peaking on my mic, so we'll see if I pull that back a bit and fix that up. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with the first faction in our list today, which is the Assembled Commonwealth, starting things off for faction turn 33. So the Assembled Commonwealth is going to gain their income first things first, as we're going to bring them up to a balance of 18 faction credits. We'll go paste their turn order in, as they are going to take the Scout a System goal, along with the action of Use Asset ability. We have several assets to go move around for them, so let's go process those. As always. Oh yeah, quick reminder, if you have pulled the map up, I would recommend not refreshing until after in the Discord I've clarified that the map is ready to be refreshed. It doesn't quite like at times in the middle of faction turn updates, as sometimes some of the validation isn't quite yet completely checked across all of the cells. So that'll be, if you've got it open, leave it open in your tab and don't refresh it if you can avoid it, just so that it continues to work for you, even though it won't be perfectly in sync with any live updates I make. So, that said, let's get started by moving the anchorage station, which is currently located on the planet of Valkai, along with one other asset, the Surveyors, that is co-located here. Right, both of these are going to move themselves to the world of Planet AD, which would help to spell correctly. And that is going to end up costing them a total of 2 faction credits for the movement. The anchorage station cost a base cost of 1, and then 1 faction credit for every 2 additional assets. As we're no longer on Valkai, the anchorage station can clear itself of completing the Valkai evacuation status, and feel free to try again next turn if there are still individuals to evacuate. After that movement, though, we're going to activate the Surveyor's asset that has just moved to go ahead and move itself, which is allowed because it was moved by another asset and able to move itself. Both of those movements are fine on a single turn, and it's going to move itself over to the 1502 planet of Planet CZ. After that, we're going to go help Valkai by taking that action. Specifically, I've been asked to target the fighting resistance groups, so let's go check the rules for that. just so we make sure we're making the correct roll. So if we come check out Valkai, the planet formerly known as Planet Z, we can see that the Fight Resistance Group's topic includes a force modifier on their roll. So the force stat of the assembled Commonwealth is a +6, so let's go roll them a d10 +6. Oh, I bet I need to zoom in on this page, don't I, so people can actually see it. There we go. Put this nice purple planet front and center. Fantastic. Let's roll this d10 +6, resulting in, wow, a 14. I think that is a success. Which, if we come back over here, we in fact do see that the fight resistance groups of a 10+ gains a +1 onto that tracker. So, resistance groups are now at 4 out of 10. Let me make a note so that the resistance clock no longer needs to go down by 1 when he gets to their turn. Got it. Fantastic for that success to the assembled Commonwealth. Up next, we have 2 covert shippings to activate for them that are both going to be moving some assets around. So first off, we have a covert shipping on the world of Peleus, which is way out over here. It's going to activate and move a commodities broker asset from the world of Coritos over to planet BH in the 1315 system, which is slightly off my screen right down here. There's also another covert shipping asset on Idaras that is going to move a commodities broker from that planet over to Mancura Niti. So let's move those commodities brokers around. We'll charge them for all of their movements at the end because I've got quite a few in this turn, so that'll just make my life easier. That's the Mancura Niti move, and then the other one moves a commodities broker from Coritas, which should only be, yeah, here it is, commodities broker, and that is moving to planet BH. Fantastic. Finally, the last movement we need to process for this turn is the extended theater asset that is on Idaras is going to move a grav tank formation that is also co-located on this planet over to the world of Magauka in the 810 Litro system. That, of course, cost them a faction credit as well. So in total, they spent 2 faction credits on the Anchorage Station move. The Surveyors was free by the use asset ability activation. The covert shipping cost 1 faction credit, taking the total cost to 3. The covert shipping that moved the second commodities broker was another 1 faction credit, bringing the total cost to 4, and the extended theater takes the cost up to 5. So that means we need to go charge them 5 faction credits, or all the money they just gained this turn, to take them back down to a balance of 13 faction credits. Up next, they are going to re-establish their constellation of the Aether Reach by making a few modifications. So the first thing they're going to do is remove this hex 1012 and add back instead 0910. The remaining hexes are going to stay, and then they are going to add some additional hexes of 0810, 0912, 0913, and 0814, which adds 2 empty hexes and 2 filled hexes while removing an empty hex to replace it with a different empty hex. This text is white because of course it is. And so that should be the changes to their constellation, which, if their math, my math, and my checking earlier indicates that this constellation is in fact valid according to all of the constellation creation rules, they have a new bonus of +6 from their constellation, which we're going to go make great use of by taking the Revise a Chart action to attempt to establish a refueling station on the planet BH. This is a DC 8 roll, so it'll be a D10 plus the 6 related to their bonus, so pretty good odds, and an 11 will easily establish a refueling station along that planet for them. So let's go add that onto planet BH. A refueling station, yeah. This becomes refueling station 2. I need some names for things from people. So that should wrap that up for that audition. The final thing we need to do is they have 4 commodities brokers spread about the world. They're going to be rolling their discounts on all 4 of them, adding to the existing ones. Let's go ahead and roll 48, and we'll go assign those 16 total discounts of a 4, 2, 2, and 8 in order, based off the locations they gave me. So, first off, we have a commodities broker that is located on Idarast. The first one that I see located on Idarast is this one. Means its discount goes up to 12. The second one gains a 2, so it goes up to 8. Then they told me the one on Mankura Niti, which is this one, so its discount also goes up to 8. And then the final one on the planet BH rolled an 8, so its discount goes up to an 11. That's quite an impressive discount they've acquired. What's that? 16, 28, 39? I don't even think there's an asset they can buy that they could justifiably use that entire discount on, is there? So that's 30. Even at 1.5 times, that would take it up to 45, so they would need a discount of 30, which they have. Panopticon is also 30, which is the same thing. And, okay, I found one. They can't buy a capital fleet with the pre-tech logistics and receive, they would still be paying 1 more credit than the minimum allowed. Okay, so there's only one asset they can't buy right now with that discount and pay the minimum. So that's a pretty impressive discount they've got there. We do need to check their goal, of course, because they took Scout a system and they have established that asset, or that sector object, so 10 XP for them, granting them +1, and let's go update their faction turn so that instead of saying check goal, it says gain 1 XP, because that's in fact what they did. That should wrap up the Assembled Commonwealth's turn, and so we'll move on down to who's next, which is the Larkspur Combine. Continuing their quite usual trend of inside enemy territory, we'll be granting them their income of 6 faction credits, taking their balance up from the 19, to a 25. They're then going to attempt a few things. They're going to attempt their ruin excavation and help out there on the world of Grail. So of course that is one of the free actions a faction can take, so long as they have assets on a planet that needs to have such a ruin excavated. So for this, we'll be rolling a d10 plus whatever amount of money they've spent. They've decided to spend 3 faction credits on this roll, so a d10 plus 3 results in a 12, which is a critical success according to this clock, where it is a 9+. So we get to go add 2 to the tracker for Grail World. Let's find it, and then find its tracker, which will take its ruin progress up to 6 out of 8. It's quite close to being revealed. Fantastic. The second thing they're going to do is take the Help Valkai action by attempting to hinder governments, which instead of the force roll that we just saw is, I believe, going to be the cunning roll. In fact, it is. So let's go find out what the Combine's cunning score is. It's a +4. So let's go ahead and roll a d10 plus 4. D10 plus 4 to see if they can succeed at that. A 14 will easily beat the DC to succeed, increasing the government's clock back up to a 4 out of 10. Congratulations to them. Up next, they are going to move some strike fleets around, so they're going to, of course, this is not unsurprising for them, so we're going to move a strike fleet of theirs that is currently located on the world of Valkai over to planet R in the 1505 system, removing its completed evac tag. They're then going to move a strike fleet from Kartakuk onto the world of Jakia, which I'm going to have to do that way because, of course, it doesn't quite do what I want. Then there is 2 strike fleets located on Idarast, which are both moving their way over to Mankura Niti. And then, finally, there is an extended theater asset on Moss that is going to move a post-tech industry asset, also located on Moss, over to the world of Heliocytus. for 1 faction credit, granting them an additional completion on inside enemy territory. Those 4 all completed. They do complete their goal. Congratulations to them. Though one other thing they're going to do is gonna go ahead and on planet R, which is somewhere right up here in the 1505 system, they're going to expand influence. As they're the only ones here, there's nobody to contest, and it goes off without a hitch. Go ahead and grant them a base of influence for their efforts. Drag that down. This just needs to move to planet R. Fantastic. The last thing they are going to do is take the Unveil the Ruin goal, or action, excuse me, and use the strike fleet present there to go ahead and make that attempt. So if we check in on what is unfortunately very closely named the Ruin Excavation goal, or action, but I digress, we're going to go ahead and make this roll. This is versus DC 14, so this is a +6 for their force stat, and they are going to spend 5 credits on this roll, so it's a total roll of a D10 plus 11. They've rolled a 16, which does beat the DC, which is convenient, because otherwise they would have had to take a D8 worth of damage. Ouch. But they have gained a success on that, so they shall be notified of the distance to the ruin when they receive their turn order for next turn, or initiative for next turn, excuse me. Let me just make a note so that I don't forget. Cool. Let's go charge them all of the money they've spent this turn. So they spent 3 faction credits for the original Ruin Excavation on Grail World. They then spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 faction credits, moving assets around. So that's a total of 8 faction credits at that point. They spent a 9th faction credit to expand influence, and then 5 on this Unveil for a total of 14 to their purchases this turn, taking their balance down to 11 faction credits. We'll grant them 2 experience, bringing them up to 21, which is quite a hefty bit of XP, and leave them be until next turn. That will take us on over to the 3rd faction in our turn today, which is the Agumala Syndicate. They are not going to be setting a goal, which is perfectly fine. Instead, they're just going to be taking the repair asset to heal up some of their assets around the sector. Let's grant them their income, taking their balance from a 13 up to a 15, up to a 15, up to an 18. Wow, I can do basic math and not mess it up with transferring numbers around. It's fine. Cool. They're going to get started with a Help Valkai action of fighting the resistance groups. So let's go ahead and make that roll. The resistance groups we've seen before is a 4-stat. Agumala's force is a +5, so a D10 plus 5 on this roll results in an 8. I don't think that is progress. I think it needed to be slightly higher to actually make progression there. Let's double check. Yeah, it is a 10 plus to modify, but an 8 is no effect on the clock, so that's quite good overall. So we will just continue on with the rest of their turn then. They have a few assets they'd like to move about, the customary shuffling of strike fleets as we quite often see. We're going to see 2 strike fleets from the 0712 system making their over to 0811. Which will trigger a new rule that was announced regarding black hole discovery, but we'll make all of those at the end of the turn to make my life easier, just so that I don't go insane. So those 2 movements are fine. We then are moving a strike fleet from the world of Valkai off planet to the world of Calypso, which of course will get to clear its completed Valkai evac note. And then finally, there is a strike fleet. Nope, excuse me, that was all 3 of the strike fleets that I needed to move. There is then a strike fleets that we want to repair, so we're going to get started with those. So we'll start with the strike fleet on planet S, which is this one right here at 4 HP. We will take the heal action once to bring it all the way back up to full, as the Ogumala Syndicate would gain 5 to force assets in this case, so that'll take that up to 8. We'll take a second repair action to repair the Viridescent Fangs? Oh no, the Armada of Wired Expanse. Wow, apologies. Take that one back up to 8 as well, spending that second repair action. Finally, they're going to take an action from the world of Calypso. So if we go check out Calypso's planetary tag, it says once per turn, heal an asset for 1 HP on this planet as a free action. So we're going to activate the planet of Calypso to heal the asset co-located on here, taking this strike fleet up to 6 HP. That is, I believe, the repairs. Yep. Okay, so we'll go ahead then and take their revised charts action up next on the world of Planet S, trying to improve that tech level. So this is a difficulty 11 roll where they're going to be taking a D10 plus 7 for the constellation bonus on it. So a D10 plus 7 for them is a 12, just barely squeaking over that DC there. But that will complete the planet modification of Planet S, taking its tech level up from 3 to 4. Yes, I know, spreadsheet, that shouldn't be edited, it's fine. Finally, they're going to take the Unveil the Ruin asset action, trying to see if they can succeed at the same place the Commonwealth, or the Larkspur Combine have, excuse me. They're gonna instead make their roll though with a D10 plus 5, plus their 5 force, so that's a D10 plus 10 versus DC 14. Oh no, how unfortunate, where they've rolled a 1 on this result, resulting in an 11. That is a failure. A D8 of damage is unfortunately inflicted upon the poor strike fleet on this planet, but luckily it is only 2 HP worth of damage, taking the once repaired and shiny, now quite injured again, strike fleet down to 6 HP. They've had bad luck with that roll twice now. That's quite unfortunate. But that said, we still need to charge them for their turn, even if their luck hasn't quite changed. The El Destino must not be smiling upon them. How unfortunate. But instead, let's go through their summary of turn charges. They moved 3 strike fleets around, costing 3 faction credits in total. They took the repair action twice, costing 1 faction credit for the first repair and 2 faction credits for the second, bringing their total cost up to 6. Then finally, they took the Unveil the Ruin action, spending 5 faction credits on that, which is the total cost for this turn of 11, taking them down to 7 faction credits. That wraps up the Ogumala Syndicate's turn. As they do not have a goal, there was no XP to award, but instead, we can move on to the Starlit Court, who find themselves 4th this faction turn, and will collect their income of 6 faction credits, bringing their balance up to 52. The Starlit Court will take the goal of Seize Planet this turn, probably because they are going to complete a seize of a planet, as is in perhaps the most safest bet I can make on the faction turn. Let's go ahead though and complete their Use Asset ability turn for them, as we see where they move some things. So first things first, the planet of Sihi is going to relocate itself from the 1107 hex, bringing all of the assets with it over into the 1207 hex of Buena, welcoming themselves in quite securely into Ogumala space at that regard. So let's go make the map happy and move a planet around, because that never goes poorly at all. The world of Sihi then moves, I said that was 1207, and this needs to change to the Buena system. Everything else probably is about to break. I don't think there's any, there's of course things that orbit Sihi that need to be relocated as well. And fantastic, that should move Sihi. Oh, there's going to be all kinds of assets, aren't there, that are very confused as to where Sihi is. Let's fix all of these real quick, because that'll make the rest of my turn easier when I am looking for Sihi in a very specific location, and instead I do not find it there. While we're here, we'll go ahead and clear the purchasing sickness from that strike fleet they bought last turn as well. Just a bonus action. Nice. Okay, then we have some strike fleets to move around for them. So let's move a strike fleet on the world of Sihi that is now located in the 1207 Buena system. It's going to move its way over to the planet of Valkai, which it is conveniently now in range of, and land on that planet. Next up, there is a strike fleet on Serenin, this one right here, that is going to move its way to Tellus, taking advantage of, I think, both its movement and, the Tellus special rule, but yeah, Tellus special rule to teleport from Serenin to Tellus. Fantastic there. Finally, we have got a few more things to do. We're going to take that fleet that just arrived on Valkai a few actions ago to attempt to evacuate the population, which, surprising me, is the first time we've seen this turn so far. So, a wealth roll from the Starlit Court of a +4, trying to beat a DC 9. We will see what happens. So, rolling a D10 +4. They've rolled a 14, resulting in the last remaining evacuation granted to the Starlit Court. The evac clock ticks up to 12 out of 12, or 12 out of 12, 5 out of 5, and let's go mark this strike fleet on Valkai with the tag for having acquired Valkai evac pop. Congratulations to that. Finally, we're going to do two more things. We're going to take an action to see what the Harvester asset they own on the world of Sihi can manage to do. That Harvester asset will roll a d6 and hopefully on a 3+, gain them 1 faction credit. That's a 5. That'll gain them a faction credit. And then finally, they're going to take a similar Ruin Excavation roll of a d10 plus 3 faction credits on Grail World. They have also rolled an 11, which I believe puts the clock at 8 out of 8 on Grail World, which is fairly exciting for them. Indeed it does. Complete the clock. Alright, we will be announcing that Ruin then at the end of the turn, as well as sending them both them and the Combine some lore about what they've discovered. Fantastic. That couldn't have gone better with the timing of seizing Grail World at the end of this turn. Fantastic for them. Let's go charge them the money, though, before their turn, before we send them into a quite nice ending of their turn here on turn 33. 1 faction credit, 2 faction credits for the 2 strike fleets moved. Excuse me, I've missed a strike fleet in reviewing myself. They moved 3, but I only moved 2. They have a strike fleet that is located on Grail World. Where is that one? Right here. It is going to move itself into the 1808 hex point of interest, which should cost them 2 faction credits, taking them up to 4 on their total spend. Finally, they spent 3 faction credits on uncovering the Ruin of Grail, which takes them up to 7, and they earned a faction credit from the Harvester, taking their total cost for the turn down to 6. So we'll go charge them their income in reverse, though, and take their turn down to 46 faction credits. We'll grant them 1 XP for completing their Seas of Grail World, and will, of course, want to go mark the planet as being now controlled by the Starlit Court for purposes of that, where they will now gain the +2 income per turn from it, and we'll find out at the end of this turn what exactly the Ruin for Grail World is. Let me just go make a note about that so that I don't forget, because that would be quite bad. Cool. That wraps up the Starlit Court's turn, so we'll move on to the 5th faction this turn of Ascent, who will gain their income of 5 faction credits, bringing their balance up to 29 credits. They're then going to take the Exploration action and corresponding goal for themselves. We do have 1 asset movement to track for them, as they are going to activate. I'm going to resort this. I'll resort it later. They are going to activate their Smuggler's asset that is currently located on the New World of Planet DA over into a point of interest in the Hex 0301, taking along with it the Seditionists, of course, that have been its ever-present traveling companion. We're then going to have the smugglers that have arrived in this hex go ahead and attempt the first exploration here, rolling a d10 plus 7 versus the difficulty of 12 for the explorer. We've done this quite a bit, so I'm not going to go through the full math, but a 17 will, of course, perfectly see how many will perfectly explore for them. 3, I believe, is just one planet, so that's, of course, perfectly standard for them. And an ooh, the dice are just continuing to tempt us with ruins that are not yet to be, resulting in an 18 on that ruin die. But we'll find out more about the rest of this planet in just a moment as I transfer it over into the spreadsheet. So this was in the 0301 hex. Okay, so that's going to be way up here towards the top of this list, 0301, right here in System XIII, or 8 as we might call it. This becomes Planet DD, and it has the mechanics tag of logistics facility assets. Cost 1 less when built on this world. The population finds itself to be completely uncolonized, with the tech level of 4+ readily available on the planet. It has an inert atmosphere, a temperate biosphere, or temperate temperature, excuse me, and a hybrid biosphere, resulting in 2 tags of civil war, which perhaps could explain its uncolonized nature if that civil war ended with both sides dead, and of course the individuals involved in that civil war were xenophobes. Quite an interesting planet to have discovered out there in the depths of space. Of course, as we just said before I rudely took the roll 20 away, that ruin roll was an 18, so no ruin discovered, unfortunately, on this turn. Let's go move those 2 assets now onto the planet they should be on instead, and we'll go mark in their faction turn that we only needed to run that first exploration, and we'll just put a strike through the rest of those. What's the shortcut for that? Alt-Shift-5. Fantastic. So we'll jump on down to their quest action of establishing an outpost on the world of Dejifri Kansu. I pronounced that so much better in the interview, but that's alright. This will be a D10 roll plus 4 faction credits versus a DC 8, so should be easy. And a 13 will, of course, succeed at that perfectly fine, so that will establish an infiltration outpost present on the world. Let's go ahead and grab that. We'll then have to make a required quest roll for them, and we will do that here in just a moment. Let me just go add yet another note to this planet that it in fact has an infiltration outpost on it. So, of course, the quest roll we need to make for them is a D10 plus I times the number of infiltration outposts they have established. Let's go check it over here, just it'll be easier to find. Then they can take then they have an amount of faction credits that they are going to spend on this roll as well, but I doubt they are spending anything because there would be no need to do so. So instead, it'll just be a D10 plus 4 versus DC 17, which is not beatable. It's a 12. So they have not succeeded at the required quest roll to progress onto the next step. That's alright though. They're going to attempt to help out Valkai. They would have been evacuating the population, or at least they would if there were a population left to evacuate, so they have no roll they need to make to help on that regard. They have completed their exploration, however, granting them 2 experience, taking them up to 5, and we of course only have one more thing to do, which is charge them for that one movement they made, taking their balance down to 28 faction credits. Excuse me, they moved into a point of interest, so that should be 2, so 27 faction credits. My bad. With that said, though, let's move on to who's next, which is the Tahorafai, who are coming in 6th this faction turn, and are going to take the goal of Seize Planet. They're then going to take an income of 16 faction credits and take the buy asset action in as well. So let's go ahead and give them their faction credits. So their balance right now of 23 will take them up to 39 faction credits. Mimo will remind me in a second which Pyro base of influence I need to trigger. That will take them up to 39 faction credits for their income, or for their current balance. Let's go ahead and purchase their asset that they want, which is an anchorage station purchased on the world of Saranen. Now, we should run through this one with a little bit more detail than I would perhaps most purchases. The world of Saranen over here is only TL4, and astute viewers among you may know that, in fact, that would be quite surprising because the anchorage station is TL5. Additionally, it requires 4-7, while the Tahorafai only have 4-6. But this is where their fancy new tag of Cybernetic Assemblers comes in, allowing them to purchase this asset, even though they've already they don't meet those requirements. They're allowed 1 anchorage station asset without accommodating the requirements, so we get to purchase this for them anyway. So right down here, we'll go ahead and grant them an additional asset of that anchorage station. Now, hopefully, if my logic is set up quite nicely, okay, so that one's not quite working. We'll figure that out in a second. Is that range just not including A2? Asset. Look up asset details. Alright, I'll debug that afterwards, because I don't see why that's not working at this exact moment, and it does not really matter. Does it work for the Assembled Commonwealth? Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't work for the Assembled Commonwealth, because I'm cheating it there too. Okay, that's funny. Well, we will go fix that problem after the stream then at some point, as we figure out what is wrong with that VLOOKUP. But anyway, I've distracted myself long enough with that. The other thing we have to do for them is move a strike fleet around. So a strike fleet that is currently on the world of planet AG, the one that is at 8 HP, is going to move itself into 0209 for exploring some more of space. And then finally there's a distorted lens asset on the world of Saranen that is going to move its way back to Lengen via a covert shipping asset located on Dyne. That is all of the faction credit spend for them, so let's go ahead and total that up. 20 faction credits for the anchorage station, 2 movements at a faction credit each, is a total cost of 22, bringing their balance down to 17 faction credits. Then they're going to attempt one final thing and try to improve the tech level on the world of AG to 4. This is a D10 roll versus the same DC 11 that we just saw earlier, with a +7 from their constellation bonus. A 9 unfortunately does not succeed for them, and they have failed at that roll. They do, however, gain their 1 XP as their Seize completes of the world of AG. We will take Tahor's XP up to 7 and go complete the Seize of AG for them. Alright, so So the Tohora Y own that planet now with the planetary government, and they have, of course, provided me some renaming for it. So the system has now become named to Electrum, and the world itself is Penagar. Nice. I probably have some assets that are now entirely confused of where they are. At least one, that base of influence was. I think that's the only thing. Cool. That'll wrap up their turn then. I believe there was a pirate base of influence proc that I was asked to double check. Who has moved to tell us this turn so far? Starlet did. That's right, Starlit Court did. So they should owe a faction credit there, because I don't believe I ran it. That is the only one that moved to tell us so far, so we'll take Tohora Y's balance up to 18 and charge 1 additional credit from the Starlit Court, bringing them down, not to 15, to 45. Fantastic. We can then move on to the Children of the Vein, coming in 7th this faction turn. They're going to continue their Blood the Enemy goal, and their action is seize the planet as it is forced from the last turn, but they do still gain their income, bringing them 6 faction credits, taking their balance up to 36. Let's go move some assets around before we process the heavy attacks of their turn. So first off, they have a smuggler's asset located in the middle of space at 1204 that is going to be moving back to the world of Valkai. They're then going to attempt to take the evacuate population goal or action on Valkai, but of course that modifier has already been completed, so there is no roll to be made there. So instead, we will just move on to their next turn, where they will activate the extended theater on Malaga to move a covert shipping asset that is currently located on Tellus, off-world to the planet of Longza. So covert shipping right there. Oh, that's the one on Tellus. It's going to move out to Magalka. Or sorry, nope, excuse me, it's moving to Longza. And then the second extended theater is going to move a pre-tech infantry asset from Tellus out to Magalka, which is probably pre-tech infantry right there. Here's the one moving to Magalka. Alright, which requires the activation of the double range assets from Tellus, with the asset moving away from Tellus, giving it the double range. They're then going to take the free action on the Amelhart Institute quest, aiming to delay the activation. So we'll take a look at that roll here. So the hindrances, it's a D10 plus S, which is the stat the asset is from, so in this case it will of course be a +6 from their force score. This is versus the DC 7 plus the distance to Ingrid from the world of Longza, which we've rolled a few times, but let's go ahead and double check that distance one more time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A DC of 12 on this roll is required for a D10. Rerolling ones, of course, once for the Children of the Vein, +6. They have only rolled a 9, so they are not successful on this turn at delaying the activation. Instead, their Seas of Longza just gets to continue, and so we will make their attacks for them. The first attack is with a Grav Tank formation on the world of Longza. This is a Force V attack with 2d10 plus 4 attack. If successful, the Amelhart Institute only have a Saboteur's asset located here to defend with, so it is forced to defend all of these attacks. That is giving the attackers for the Children of the Vein then a +6. The defender gets a +4. Let's roll the defender first. So a d10 plus 4 results in an 8 for the defensive roll. d10 rerolling 1 +6 for the attackers is a 10. That is a success. There is really no need to roll the attack dice of a 2d10 plus 4, but 15 damage results in only a measly 1 damage actually dealt to the asset, as it does tick up their Blood the Enemy counter by 1. but that Saboteurs is not long for the world. We'll go ahead and mark it down at 0 HP. The remainder of the attacks on Longza do not go through, as they are now invalid, as there is no other asset located here from the Amelhart Institute to defend. So instead, the Seize Clock will get to progress at the end of this turn. Alright. They do have a few other attacks, though. They have made an attack on the world of Tellus, where there is currently no Amelhart Institute asset. That attack was with a marketer's asset, for those interested. There were attacks on the planet of Moss and Heliocytus, and there is one final one that does go through on the world of Magalka, as a pre-tech infantry asset is now here. The Amelhart Institute covert shipping is forced to defend. This is not quite the exact same role, but it's still Force v Force, as we'll have the pre-tech infantry instead 2d8 as their attack dice if they do succeed. We'll roll these in the exact same order, so the defender first. A d10 plus 4 is, a slightly better defensive roll of a 9, but of course a d10 rerolling ones plus 6 is a 14, so a success for the attackers. 2d8 there is 6 damage. That is more than enough to kill the covert shipping's 4 HP worth of health, so we will take that down to 0. Not the one on Ingrid, we want the one on Magalka. Alright, 4 damage taken there, 4 more damage to the Blood the Enemy Tracker, putting them at 13 out of 16. And they don't quite complete their goal, but that's alright. The final thing they're going to do today is move a strike fleet off the world of Longza. As it is no longer required to stay there. The Children of the Veins strike fleet on that planet will instead depart, head out to empty space 0613. Alright, let's go charge them for all the things they did this turn that weren't attacks. They moved a smuggler's asset at the start of their turn. They activated 2 extended theater assets, and then they moved a strike fleet at the very end for a total cost of 4 faction credits, taking their balance down to 32. They do not complete their goal, but the Siege of Longza does progress by 1, taking itself up to 1 out of 3 on its progression. Having left the faction just getting attacked, the Amelhart Institute is next, where they are not taking a goal this turn. They will just simply collect their income of 6 faction credits, and then buy an asset. Granting them their income takes their balance up to 24 faction credits, and they will then buy a Demagogue asset on the world of Ingrid, where of course they are the planetary government controller, so no checks required to see if they can make this purchase. They just can. Go ahead and put this roll in. They meet the requirements for this asset. We've seen them own one before, so it's not a problem there. This is on Ingrid, their homeworld. Of course, it does not actually have 1 HP, though. It has 10. This cost them 20 faction credits to acquire, of course, with Purchase Sickness, and I've just remembered that I doubt I marked the Tahora Fayi incrustation with that, so bloop, fixed. That, though, is alright, as the Demagogue costs 20 normally. The other thing they are going to do is take advantage and purchase Stealth at the exact same time, so this Demagogue arrives with Stealth, taking the total cost of the purchase up to 22 faction credits. They're then going to move it by take advantage of a asset on their homeworld of Ingrid. One of these 2 covert shippings is going to move that Demagogue from here all the way to Tellus. Of course, that movement will also cost 2 faction credits, with one of it going to the Tahora Fayi, taking their balance up to 19. So, 23 and 24 faction credits in total for their turn takes their balance down to 0. That should wrap up their turn, assuming I actually do move this asset from Ingrid to Tellus. Alright, completion of the Amelhart turn, we move on to the Tellus Council, coming in 9th this faction turn. They have a very simple use asset ability turn. Let's just go roll these things. So we have a venture capital, 2 post-tech industries, with have way too many T's in them, and a Harvester's asset. So we've seen the Harvester already this turn. Let's go check the other rolls we need to make, because we also have a re-roll to be available with their Planetary Ruin tag. So Venture Capital is going to go roll a d8. So let's go see what happens. We've rolled a 3, which we were only told to re-roll a die result of a 1 on this asset. So a 3 gains them 1 faction credit, doubled up to 2. We're then going to go roll for 2 post-tech industry assets. So we'll go re-roll 2 d6 here. That is a 1 and a 6. So we go check the results for that post-tech industry. A 1 would lose a faction credit, and a 6 would gain 2, doubling their gain to 4. So 6 credits earned. I have been told to use the re-roll on a result of a 1, so let's go ahead and do that for them, resulting in a 4. So that's probably another 1 faction credit gained. In fact, it is, so that is 8 faction credits in total gained this turn. The last thing to roll is a Harvester's asset of a d6. A 4 gains another 1. That is 10 faction credits earned, which is quite nice, considering the Telos Council's income is down at 0. That takes their balance up to 11, and completes their turn. Last but not least, for the player-controlled factions, we have the Concord of Mutual Disdain taking the Scout a system goal. They're then going to take the Seize Planet action and seize a planet in their domain of space, but let's grant them their income first, taking their balance up to 38. Whoops. To 38 faction credits. They're going to go seize a planet way out off down here, a planet CG in the 1418 hex. So let's go ahead and mark that for them, considering there is nobody else here. They can start that seize, excuse me, without much of a problem. Let's go ahead and just put the tracker at 1 out of 3 for that. They're then going to move a strike fleet that is currently located in 1206 to the planet of Valkai, arriving just in case it was needed. Let's find it. Yeah, here it is on Calypso. So that moves to the hex of Valkai. The strike fleet that is on planet CG and has just started the siege will move itself off to planet BK, which is fine as there's a base of influence around to maintain it. BK is perfectly cool there. Then they're going to take the revise charts action to attempt to establish a research base in 1818. Their constellation bonus for this is +9, and the DC of research base, I'm pretty sure according to their notes, is an 8. It is an 8, so they legitimately can't fail this roll, so D10 plus 9 is a 19! Congratulations to them. They have a research base with a critical success. Let's go make notes of that. In 1818 Viken, they now have a research base 2. So we can apparently fix this, which was named Pinagar, while we're here. Congratulations to them. They're then going to take the Help of Valkai action. They were going to attempt to evacuate the population. That is no longer possible, so instead they will fight the resistance groups. Resistance group fighting is, of course, the check for plus force, so we will take the Concord and Mutual Disdain's force, which is a +6, to go ahead and make this roll. A d10 plus 6 is a 13, adding +1 to the resistance group's clock, taking it up to 5. That completes all of those things. They gain their 1 faction credit, or one faction credit, 1 experience for their Scout the System goal, and we need to charge them 2 faction credits for the 2 movements they did this turn, taking their balance down to 36 faction credits. That wraps up the Concord of Mutual Disdain's turn, which is quite nice. I don't see anything else in chat that people think I have missed, so I'll give you a second to see if you find anything, but if not, I'm going to continue on through the remaining 2 factions that we should process. But in fact, the announcement I have for the White Whale is that nothing happens on its turn. Instead, the whale gets to go into peaceful retirement. So, there is a thing that is going to happen here to the whale's assets, so we will go through that here, as the whale goes into peaceful retirement into the Void Sanctuary of Aklut. So, the Agumala Syndicate will have an announcement very shortly about their new faction quest, so this ties into that. But as a result, the White Whale will no longer need to exist as a faction or an asset. I will go ahead and leave the token on the board as part of the new Mechanical Megafauna faction. Yet another announcement to make in just a second, because the asset is incredibly cute, and I would like it to remain on the board even if it's no longer mechanically interactable via attacks in the way that it once was. I suppose to destroy it, you would need to work out something fictionally with the Tohora Fai by attacking them instead at this point. But there are some assets controlled by the White Whale that aren't the White Whale itself, because past Xavier didn't block such donations of assets to the whale. So instead I'm going to be using a modified version of the sort of rules I'm looking at for when the council would be disbanded or whatnot for what happens to these assets. So we're going to start with the Distorted Lens asset, and we're going to go roll a d10. This has resulted in a 4. This asset is lost to time and space. The Distorted Lens just disappears and poofs into the background, perhaps never to be seen again. We also have a Zealot's asset to go roll a d10 for. That results in an 8. So instead, something does happen. This asset finds itself set to 0 HP and is in a protected or stasis status, as if it was being kept alive by a Bolt Hold asset. Since the asset is still around, a random faction shall receive it. So, we'll make the same roll we would for most other things here. We'll take out, of course, the White Whale, and I suppose the Tellus Council is eligible to receive this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to make the roll. We'll roll, conveniently, another d10, and a 5 is the result. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an incredibly funny way for this lore to work out. The Agumala Syndicate received this asset in its Bolt Hold's status protected state on the planet of Tellus. Don't ask me how this works. I'm really interested to see the news report and the definitely not insider messages that are just being sent directly to Lupus Calbricht for benefit of his broadcasts, because that is bound to be some interesting fiction. I'm fascinated. So, that is what happens to the Zealot assets, and of course we shall see going forward. I can't change the White Whale faction yet because I don't have a new faction to set it to, but we'll get there. Finally, though, in faction turns to process, we have the Valkyrie, who still has their asset around, are going to go roll a d8 for the Pretech Manufactory, and they've rolled a 5, rounded up, gains them 3 faction credits. Gained 3 FC. Use asset action. And I went ahead and I have checked the plots, but nothing needs to decrease. They get to stay where they are. Let's go grant Valkyrie their money, taking their balance up to 15. And that is fantastic. So, with this going... Oh yeah, I guess the peril does advance. That's a good point. It's now at 7 out of 12. Cool. Other announcements then, as we get towards the end. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and check here is there was a new announcement in Discord about discovering black holes. So there were 3 void hexes that have been stepped into this turn. I think they're probably still all... marked with this, indicator. So there's 0209, there's 0613, and there's up at the top here 0811. All of these need to see if there's a black hole present here. So we're going to go roll a D100. 41. No black hole and 0613. 0811. 24. Nope. And a final D100 for 0209 is a 25. No black holes, which we would need to roll either a 1 or a 100 on this D100 to establish. These hexes can no longer have a black hole ever discovered in them in the future. It is a once per hex check, as void hexes are landed in by space-faring spaceships. So that'll be a very cool thing to see in the near future, and hopefully we'll find at least a couple around the sector. Up next then of things to check, we have the Amelhart quests. While they didn't deal any damage this turn, they still took damage. So let's see if this calculation results in them gaining anything onto their quest line. They took 5 damage in total as far as I'm concerned, and then divided by half of their stat line, which is 8, rounding down, 0. No progress on the Amelhart quest clock. We need to go roll another d10 to figure out what faction is going to receive the distorted lens. This one's a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the Assembled Commonwealth. They can grant themselves a distorted lens asset. Congratulations for them. They have acquired a fun asset. I will note that their tracker for force assets is currently wrong because this is wrong, but we will fix that in the near future when it gets fixed. Oops. So that should be a thing that didn't take too long to resolve once I figure out what's wrong with it. So, purchase sickness for this distorted lens, not protected. Purchase sickness. Fantastic. Let me make a note of who received that so that I can put it into valid spots. Alright. I guess the final thing to announce and sort of just wrap up before I get to true new announcements is the ruin that was discovered on Grail World this turn. As its mechanics become available. Let's go find itself on here so I can add the note. Well, its ruin clock is at 8 out of 8, and it gains the text: when this planet has a planetary governor, it becomes the legitimate target of any movement asset, regardless of hex range. Starship-type assets controlled by the planetary government have quadruple the range when starting on this hex. Any Starship-type asset costs the floor of the asset tier divided by 2 faction credits less to build. And additionally, repairing any Starship-type asset costs 1 faction credit less, akin to the military, medical center discount for assets of its type. Those can stack, so that would mean that 2 starships could be repaired. 2 starship-type assets could be repaired on this planet for 0 faction credit cost for both charges. There's not a discount earned for getting a -1 on the first repair in that case. Sorry. So, that is the thing here. To explain the discount in a little bit more of a practical example, this means if you were purchasing a strike fleet as the planetary governor, so in this case Starlit Court, strike fleets purchased on Grail World would cost them 10 faction credits rather than 12, as it is tier 4. That divided by 2 is 2, so that gives us a -2 discount for 10 faction credits. If they had commodities brokers, those discounts would stack in the same normal way, so the minimum they could pay to actually buy a strike fleet still remains at 6 faction credits. This doesn't affect the minimum purchase price. And of course, quadruple movement is quite far for Starship-type assets from Grail World, as that would mean they can move 8 hexes away for a strike fleet, which is quite a big distance away from the planet. But it is on the edge, so it's sort of only in 1/2 of space, so that'll be quite interesting to see how it affects in the coming turns. And of course, they can use it immediately starting next turn, given that they are currently the planetary governors. So congratulations to them for gaining that ruin unlock. Other announcements then to go through. We have a new quest to announce for the Agumala Syndicate. Perhaps I should zoom in on their homeworld while we talk about them. As stated earlier, they are giving up pursuing Aklut for the moment, and instead will turn their tracks towards fauna sightings. Of course, the quest details will be provided in Discord and in the wiki page afterwards if you'd like to read the full text rather than just hearing me read it out loud. But fauna sightings. After tracking the white whale for an epoch, Aguamalan hunters have become more adept at locating the signs and identifiers left by space fauna. Identifying places where these creatures may gather could establish hotspots for eager hunters. They have a goal to establish 4 sighting outposts and gain a specific quest action, establish a sighting outpost. Choose a hex where this faction has an asset, then roll a d10 plus faction credits plus a modifier D and a modifier of CON. This rolls against difficulty 9, where faction credits is of course an amount of faction credits spent on the roll from 0 to 5. D is a bonus related to taking damage to the asset actually trying to establish the sighting outpost of a D2, D4, D6 for a +1, +2, +3 respectively. And Con is a constellation bonus if applicable. Specifically, it is only their constellation bonus that gets added here. On a success, they get to establish a sighting outpost as a specific sector object in the given hex. This completes the Scout a System goal if taken. This action can then be taken up to twice on a single turn, with the second attempt having a DC of 14 rather than 9. If the first attempt fails, the second may be taken in the same location. Completing this quest by establishing 4 sighting outposts will give them the existing faction tag that was developed and previously announced for them. They will also gain a single use of advantage for any action taken against the Megafauna faction. Please hold on more about that. That requires rolling a d10, and all of their current bases of influence will gain the armored status upon completion of the quest. So that is their new quest. But of course, the full details will be available to read in text in a little bit, but that'll be quite interesting to see how that turns out for them. And there's a potential I'll make these sighting outposts available as an actual sector object for the near future. The other thing to announce quest related is the Amelhart quest reward has been established. They've selected a new tag called Reawakened Fleet. This faction can support one scavenger fleet asset without paying the upkeep cost or having the tier or tech level requirements to purchase it. Simple and short, much like the Anchorage Station modifiers. They're allowed to buy this asset. Cool, let me catch up and see if there's anything in chat. Yeah, Memo, the 4X does stack with Mercenaries, so the addition goes first, so that would take a total cost from... or, a total distance from 3 up to 12. Cool. Other announcements then, as I have quite a few of them. There's a new environmental system, as has been mentioned a few times. Mechanical Megafauna. This has been in the faction Mechanics Council for this month, but it's being officially announced now. So I'm going to take care of the creation of the faction on the map, just to actually insert it into the spreadsheet off stream because we're not placing any assets this turn. But essentially the TLDR of this is there are going to be a series of Megafauna assets that can appear on the board that you're able to interact with in different ways. These assets will be given a tier equivalent to between a 3 and 7. Their tier, when you interact with the specific asset, will be the die roll you actually roll against as its modifier, rather than the faction having a specific set of stats. Only 4 of these fauna assets can exist at a time. The white whale will not count against this cap, even though I'm going to assign it to this faction. And these fauna assets will either be space-based ones where they can roam around akin to the spaceship assets, or specific land-based fauna assets that we'll just see on a specific planet. So going forward, starting next turn, at the end of turn phase, the Megafauna faction, if it's not at its cap, which it won't be next turn, will roll 2d10 on this following table. If a Megafauna is spawned, we'll roll a d6 to figure out if it's either land-based or space-based. We'll then either pick its location to start by rolling just across the hex grid or across all of the available planets to actually place the asset. The tiers are available here if you want to learn more. There's some details about how assets are managed for attacking and getting attacked by them, and their automation as to what they do. It's fairly simple and straightforward. If it doesn't attack, it normally tries to gain stealth or armored or heals. If it is attacked, it attacks back unless its health is too low compared to what it rolls on a d20, very similar to the white whale, and then it tries to do something else. There are two ways to interact with megafauna for actions. There is protecting megafauna, where you will get to establish a sanctuary, much akin to the Void Sanctuary of Aklut, to actually protect these assets. When they are protected, they will disappear from the board. You'll get a little system object instead to represent it, and you'll get that'll be a possible completion. You can also influence the megafauna to attempt to influence what it does on the turn, much like we were seeing Tahora Fa'i do. The rules for doing that are here. There are two different goals related to this. You can either hunt the megafauna, which is an ongoing goal that you take whenever you wish, and will continue to increase in its award by 1 XP. You must select a megafauna asset when you take this goal, so a specific one. And there's essentially, so long as you are working towards the goal, the XP award will increase by 1 at the very end. You must actually kill the megafauna asset to receive the XP, so you could lose out if you take this too early, but it is a guaranteed 1 per turn, so long as it is ticking and you are making an action towards hunting the megafauna, which will be fairly liberal in my ruling as to did you make progress. The other goal here is just securing the megafauna, which is a difficulty or awards an XP of the fauna tier divided by 2. So, this one's a little bit more complicated. You only need to take the turn once, but you'll have to move fauna around to actually where you can secure them. Here's the calculations for how fauna will appear on the board. Every T here is the tier of the fauna that is spawned, so a tier 3 passive fauna will have 12 HP, while a tier 7 would have 28. Same thing for attack and counter dice, just substitute in the tier number everywhere you see T and then resolve, and that will tell you what the abilities of that fauna are. All of this will make its way over into the rulebook very shortly, probably within the next day. Won't be immediately in this afternoon. I have some other things to take care of, but that'll be something to keep in mind as we go forwards. The other thing worth announcing is there are some clarifications I'm going to be adding into the actual rules, just from things people have asked me. There's some clarifications on how asset ability activations work regarding the free action or as an action modifiers, and then the actual turn actions of buy actions and how those interact with the free actions you take on a faction turn level. So this text just helps clarify that going forward. I've got to fix up the wording of some movement assets so that they are more clear and conform to the if it is a use an action, it is free. If it is as a free ability, it costs money. So those changes will just be updated on their respective assets. It was discussed in Met Council, and the current rewording is the way these assets have been running, except in the cases of assets that we haven't really seen on the board, but I just noticed in my review of movement assets, yet again, that they were different. The Moving Planets mechanical tag is going to get a slight update. Currently it says, as an action, this homeworld can move 1 hex. Any assets on this homeworld move with it. Homeworld is going to be replaced with a world planet, because the power to actually move these planets around rests with the planetary government, as it is the mechanical tag of the planet. It's not actually related to the homeworld status. That's a misnomer. So we are going to change that around in case for some reason a planet would ever not become a homeworld. It's still eligible to move. That is the ability of the actual planet itself, not just because it's a homeworld. And then the final thing that is going to get added is a clarification for stealing assets, mostly related to fauna, but also for other things going forward, because it makes life easier for me. So the clarification is going to be that factions can only steal assets available on the core asset list. This is assets that have a listed cost and therefore can be purchased by a faction. Can be purchased as in a faction can conceivably work to meet the requirements, not the stealing faction actually meets the requirements to purchase that asset. It's just it could be purchased by any conceivable faction. If an action would steal an asset that is not on the core asset list, it will, at minimum, be destroyed immediately, no matter what its HP is, and other interactions may occur at my discretion, but the guarantee is at least the asset will be destroyed. So if you make an attack with a treachery against something that can't actually be stolen, it will guaranteed die so long as your attack succeeds. That is a promise. Other things may occur if I'm able to come up with something that seems to make fictional sense. The thought here was I don't want people to be able to steal the megafauna assets because they aren't really designed to be balanced with faction control in mind. They're designed to be relatively tough to fight against, and so it would be kind of unfortunate to let somebody steal a very high-level megafauna and have that as an asset when it isn't balanced in the same way as an asset is. So, I think that is everything. There were a lot of updates here at the very end, which took almost about a third as much time as the faction turn did, but it's been a while since we've had quite a comprehensive update for the rules and some additional clarifications, and then the new system should hopefully be interesting and fun to engage with going forward as we see these megafauna assets start to appear. So that said, I don't think I have anything else. I'll take some time to try to get the map working immediately after this. That's probably going to be about the only thing I have immediate time to do. I have another commitment in just over an hour that I have to run to, so some things will take a little bit longer to get out regarding like Discord updates and whatnot. But I did draft the majority of the wiki page right before this, so I will be making the few edits I need and then posting that, which that will have a lot of the text write-up that will make its way into the Discord when I have the time to actually draft that prose up. So we shall see going forward about what will happen in the world of Beacon Space. So I'm interested in to see what the next things will be and what we will see as on the upcoming lore stream. Now, I think I have tentative dates that I will need to confirm, but I do have a date in mind for the next faction turn stream, so if people want to go ahead and mark their calendars, I'll be making a formal announcement in a bit. But the next faction turn stream will take place on August 19th, so we're going to do another tight 4-week window pretty exactly, which may be the case for the next stream or two as we sort of prepare up for the October, November, December months when holidays start to get in the way again. So expect some longer streams, longer turns there, but we'll be pretty closely onto the 4-week window for the next few streams as we go forward. That, I think, though, is everything. So hopefully the audio thing was just me having to mess around with it at the very start of the stream beforehand for far longer than I would have hoped, and everything sounded good on your end. Let's go ahead, though, and wrap things up. So I've been Xavier Stordes, your game facilitator for Unrestricted Lorefare, and this has been our setting of Beacon Space. I shall see you next time.